New to Hulu is an alien invasion survival thriller, No One Will Save You. Very, very upbeat and hopeful title there. It stars Kaitlyn Dever as a woman alone in a large house in the country who awakes one night to the sound of something in the house. And wouldn't you know, it turns out to be an alien with big eyes and a little mouth and long spindly arms and all the things that make them nightmare fuel. And the rest of the film basically is a tale of her trying to survive and escape these aliens who have some sort of purpose, be it sinister or curious. Always interesting to me. So this was a 20th Century Fox, no, 20th Century Studios. It's not Fox anymore. It's separate. And it's not the 20th century anymore, but it's such a great title. Why would you change it? 21st century, now you're talking about canon-esque films from the late 80s. We have the star of the film who's been in a lot of things. I think I remember her from Justified, but she's always good. And it is interestingly almost completely dialogue-free. You're watching it for a while and you realize, well, it's a woman alone. If she's not talking out loud, that's fine. That's always sort of a shorthand cinematic thing to get inside a character's head, to have them talk to themselves a lot. But here she doesn't. And she's a woman that for some reason she lives very separate from the town. It's a big, beautiful, lovely country home. And it looks like her income is based on doing work at home and mailing it out to people. And she lives as though it's in decades earlier. She listens to old music. She dressed in an old-timey style. Big old house, as I say, has to, take the car into town where nobody talks to her for some reason. For some reason, people don't like her. And she writes letters to a friend that you never see. And as the film goes on, ultimately all is revealed as to why things are like this. But there is very, very little spoken dialogue in this film. And it reminds me a lot. As I'm watching it, in the end, I'm like, well, this movie could have been a lot shorter, and it could have just been an episode of a TV series, like, I don't know, the Invaders episode of The Twilight Zone, which is very similar to that, where you had Agnes Moorehead as a woman who never speaks, alone in a farmhouse, where these little tiny alien men are attacking her, and I almost wondered if it was going to play out the same way, but it doesn't. It plays out in a very strange way. It plays out in a way that I actually did not understand. I had to look up the ending to get sort of an idea of what the ending might have been about. And now that I read that, I'm like, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. But in the moment, the ending was sort of a WTF for me, although still very interesting and impactful. Really well done film. A good creeper. The aliens are CGI because that's the way things are done now. But for the most part, very well done. They have the long arm thing. That moment in the original Nightmare on Elm Street that was so disturbing for so many of us as kids when Freddy Krueger has the long arms. You watch it again now, it's not as creepy. This film does that, and it does it a few times, and it's very creepy because arms aren't supposed to be that long. And the alien creatures all sort of look the same. There's a little bit of variety. And it is a little bit of a slow build up to when the alien first shows up, but it's just really well done. It is reminiscent of a lot of other things because that's the nature of films, or that's the nature for somebody like me or you who watches a lot of stuff and remembers it, and you'd be like, oh, that's kind of like Signs, and that's kind of like that Twilight Zone episode, and that's kind of like whatever. But it held my interest. It was creepy, effectively creepy, a good one to watch if you're home alone in a big house with the lights off at night, which is how we watched it. And I could see, so I always have this theory. It used to be in the home video days, and I still say it. If there's a movie with a lot of actors you've heard of, but you've never heard of the movie, there's a good reason for that. And I feel the same way about things that are produced by major studios that for whatever reason go straight to Hulu, or they go straight to Netflix, or they go straight to Peacock. And it just wasn't... It probably would have disappointed people in theaters. People probably couldn't have handled the lack of dialogue in the theater, or the ending might have been a little too weird for them in the theater, or it might have taken too long to get where it was going, or it might not have had enough star power. Who knows why it is deemed not appropriate to release in theaters, but for streaming, it was fun. It was a decent alien invasion thriller, very small in that it's not gigantic in terms of thousands of people and thousands of aliens and things blowing up and all kinds of other stuff. When the effects are there, they're well done. Makes them more impactful, I think, that it's used sparingly. You don't see the aliens right up close, right out of the gate. You see fleeting glimpses here and there. They're not necessarily the kind of aliens you've seen in films before. And it's a think piece, but it also works if you don't want to think about anything. It works as just a creepy thing is trying to get this young woman. Will she survive, and how? So now available on Hulu, or as I like to say, the Hulu, is again the wonderfully upbeat and hopeful title, No One Will Save You.